Little Legends Podcast is a Prediction Esports production. Support us by subscribing to the Prediction Esports Podcast channel on your favorite podcast provider. Hey guys, and welcome back to the Little Legends Podcast, episode 22. I'm your host, Blevins. Joining me, as always, is Boob. What's up, man?
As always, it's good to be Boob.
Should I not talk in my smooth radio voice, which I only do at the beginning too? It goes away after the intro. I don't know. It's like
Well, it's a good thing that it does.
That's like the first thing they tell you not to do when you're like in like radio training. They're like, okay, don't talk like this the whole time because everyone is expecting that, and it's literally a meme on The Simpsons. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that every time. Got it.
Sure. So what I take out of that is do it.
Yes.
No, it's been a good week. My buddies here visiting. We've been playing a ton of games. Been playing some TFT. Haven't gotten to like grind as much as I want, but been getting some good pred games in.
Nice. I think you
that.
abbreviated the maximum number of words in that sentence.
I preach.
We're gonna get through this. We had a genuinely disturbing pre-show where I literally blew out the ears of everyone here. So we're a little rattled right now, but we'll be back in the action after some housekeeping, which we'll do right now. Of course, guys, you know we are a Prediction Esports production. If you're watching live, you can see the big old banner down there, PREDICTION. Make sure you're checking out the feed there, Spotify, iTunes, all those good places. Make sure you're throwing us a subscribe there. In addition to wherever else you're listening to us, we want to be everywhere for you. And all of that does help us out tremendously, so make sure you do that. Speaking of helping us out, you can always help us out at patreon.com/TheLegendsPodcast. Definitely a huge help for sure. We've got some other stuff. Game night. We had an awesome game night. Boob, you were there. We had a nice new game night
there.
on the Giant Slayer channel. So that was fun.
Some memes were had.
Yes.
Some were born.
There was a meme, at least one meme born. Many others perpetuated.
The perpetual. We're gonna get like a perpetual meme machine before like perpetual motion.
Yes.
That'll be great for the esports crowd. Perpetual memes. But no, it was super fun. Being on Giant Slayer, like having like an official place to meet. Right?
Yeah.
It was like going to the Lions Club. Is that what it's called? That does sound like
the Friars Club.
It could be.
There's a Lions.
There's
a Lions Club.
Yeah, the Magic Castle. All still weirdly latently. But anyway, the coolest part was like we got support. Jules was there. A lot of our TFT friends were there. Of course, we want more people to come join. We'd love to run a couple lobbies. And my dream is for this, like, we've got a channel. We've got 8 players. Why not up the stakes sometime? So we'll see what kind of things come in the future. But it definitely gives us an opportunity to think about what's next for Fight Nights.
Yeah, so definitely make sure you stop by. We are recording on Giant Slayer TV, so if you didn't catch the actual broadcast, I don't think this one is up, but in the future they will be probably made into either YouTube videos or on the Giant Slayer TV twitch.tv/Giant Slayer TV. And also, if you want to play, it's open to everyone. So I've had a number of people ask, like, hey, how do we join? Is it open to anyone? Do you have to be a certain rank? No, you can. Well, yes, anyone can join. No, you don't have to be a certain rank. Anyone can play. It's very laid back. It's casual. We try to have fun with it. It's not like a competitive tournament or anything. We're just playing. We're messing around. We do a lot of wacky games. We switch it up. And we actually I think we had the most people ever last week. So We can always take more once we get to 16 people. We'll have 2 lobbies. I'll be in one. Boop will probably be in another one, or we'll mix it up. We'll do something,
or we'll cast it or something.
or we'll cast it. It'll be great.
Yeah, it would be fantastic. 2 professional, 1 professional, and one
one professional, and also me,
and our number 1 volunteer, Blevins. How's that participation award treating you?
Hey, I never got a participation award. I got a most improved player award that had someone else's name on it, but it's okay. No.
It was super fun. We have a new god amongst the Little Legends community.
Yes, we do. And nope, you gotta come to game night, learn all the inside jokes. They're on game night. Or go to discord.me/legends podcast. That's where we actually play in that Discord. Join it regardless if you want to play. I can imagine it being a little intimidating, but I mean, I'm like the least intimidating person. I mean, I look very intimidating because I look like a scary murderer dude, but I'm not. So if you want to play, we've had a lot of people that come up and like, hey, can we play? Absolutely. Come on in. We want to see you there. And if you want to just watch, you can go over again to twitch.tv/GiantSlayerTV. Okay, Boop, you talked a little bit about your games in TFT this week. I just want to bring up one specific night. I actually did get a little bit of a grind in. Like I had a probably 4 or 5 hour session where I was just playing off stream, so I have no excuse for for the reason I played so poorly. But I just had one of those nights where it felt like I just forgot how to play the game. Like one of those, like it wasn't even that I forgot. It was just like every single decision I was making, I was immediately getting punished for it. It was like, and also just making bad decisions in general. It's like, okay, you know what? I know Berserkers are good. I'm just going to force Berserkers. And I get like an early Olaf, and like someone has an even earlier Olaf too. And I'm just like, oh. It's like taking us both down. It's like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna do the most mindless thing ever. I'm gonna go Blender. I'm forcing it, and there's like 3 other Blenders players, and we all get bottom 4. And it's like, okay, you know what? I don't want to do Blenders. I want to do this new strat that I learned about in the Giant Slayer Fight Night, which we'll talk about in a minute. Yep. I want to play this sweet Vygar comp, and just like immediate 8th place. It's like I don't even know how to play it. So it's like I just had one of those nights where like I think the best I got was like a 3rd place, and I just had like 6, 7, 8, 8, 6, 8, 7, 6, 6, 5, 8. Like it was terrible. Like I almost wanted to delete my account and start a new one because of that one night that just it will taint my record forever. But the reason I bring this up, not to just crap on my performance, which maybe that's just entertaining in and of itself, but the reason I bring it up is because I've had those types of nights before in Magic or Hearthstone or Overwatch or all these other games that I've played at least at a competitive level. To me, not at a high level, but at a competitive level, if that makes sense. Like I'm trying to win. I'm not just playing just to play. Where you have one of those nights and it's just like I just don't even want to load the game back up. Like I get a bad loss, I just want to turn the game off and walk away and not play anymore. But at the end of that night, I
say that about my marriage sometimes.
Not touching that one with a 10-foot pole. I walked away.
That was a good joke. You have to admit that was a really good joke.
Good.
Yeah. It's actually really funny. Some people when I make jokes like that, some people are like, "Oh, but you're gay. Oh, you're just like us." It's like, yeah.
Oh, you hate marriage just as much as we do.
I love my husband. I do. He would have laughed at that joke, but I couldn't handle it. It was it was there for the taking, and I had the opportunity, so I had to.
Sometimes you just got to shoot your shot. You miss 100%.
Just like I did when I got married and now divorced. So
you miss 100% of the inappropriate jokes you don't make. That was a Wayne Gretzky quote, actually. No, sorry, it was originally Abraham Lincoln. But the reason I brought this up is because I actually did not feel discouraged. Like obviously I didn't feel good about losing all those games, but I was like, I just need to watch some streams. I need to go back to the basics. I need to stop forcing. I need to like do this, and this. And like I actually weirdly kind of felt good after that night. And it's very rare for that to happen because like I'm like the type of person that like when I used to grind Hearthstone ladder, like if I like went down in rank on the night, like it would really like implant itself in my brain. I would just feel crappy like the whole night or the whole rest of the day until I started playing again, or like until something happened that I could just erase that. And I just didn't like. I went down like a rank and a half. I think I went from like almost plat 1 down to like middle of plat 3. So like I went down a sizable amount, and it was really weird and like kind of spoke to, I don't know, maybe just how into the game I am right now, just like how much stream I'm watching, how much like studying of the game I'm doing, and apparently not retaining and able to perform. But just like all I wanted to do was just at like 3 a.m. I'm like, I just need to watch like Crowan stream, or like just like I just need to like take a day off of playing and just watch a high level player and just absorb as much as I can. And I don't know, have you had like an experience like that in anything where it's just like, I don't know, I almost felt zen about it. I'm like, I just need to learn more. I was inspired rather than
Yeah, see,
demotivated.
unfortunately for me, like in order for me to get there, right, and a lot of my best mentors in my life figured this out is I have to hit rock bottom first, right? Because I'm going to be blaming everything other than me for the most part, until like I have to like really look at myself, right? I have to snap into it and be like, wait a second,
Mhm.
it's me, right? And
Yeah.
so in like for example in League, a very common one was like, why do I keep losing? Why am I so low ranked? And blah blah blah. And then finally I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna play the same character and I'm just gonna farm. I'm gonna try to
Mhm.
farm real good and
Mhm.
get better at one thing rather than just being like the best already, right? Like, oh, I just started playing piano. I'm gonna play Moonlight Sonata tomorrow, right? Like, you could probably get through Moonlight Sonata having never played piano, but it would take you like a year and a half,
Mhm.
right? But if you learn like other stuff and you kind of like do it step by step, it becomes much easier and you'll end up learning it quicker. And I think that's like definitely one of my more, all right, let's take a breath in, let's
Mhm.
do something you know you're good at, right?
Mhm.
And start building upon some success. But usually I have to like get up and like go do something.
Mhm.
A good poop usually solves my tilt.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that usually
Like
solves most problems.
get all that out, get all that nastiness on the outside, or
Mhm.
from the inside on the outside, right?
Yep.
And go into it with a fresh head, fresh belly, and fresh snacks, and
Yeah.
see what you can do.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe it's just I've like playing Magic and to a lesser extent playing poker over the years really like it made me get like the whole randomness thing out of me, like blaming randomness, because like I know exactly what the odds are, or roughly what the odds are anytime. So like if I make the right decision enough times, I know it's going to pay off. So when it doesn't, it doesn't bother me anymore. um and I also know that I'm not the best player right now, but I can be better. So when I'm
Mm.
not, it's something I'm doing. And I just do that by default. Maybe I am making the right decisions. I don't think I am. I mean, I'm not even at that level where I'm even have the confidence to think that I am making the right decisions. Like, if I was a challenger player right now and like was losing by hairs, maybe I would have a little more faith. But I'm in like the middle of plat right now, so like I know I'm playing things bad. My games are not finishing, and even in terms of like build comp and like item composition in the same way that a Crowan or a Soju or a Raditz are finishing. So like I know I'm doing something wrong. And maybe that's
It's
better.
funny, like anytime I see a professional play the game I'm playing, right,
Mhm.
I'm always like, but how, right? Like with, especially with something like Rocket League, right?
Oh God,
Where
yeah.
it's just like they are just doing other. Is
They're
this
just
the
playing a
same
different
game?
game, yeah.
Are we playing the same game? I
Yeah.
watch Crowan and he just like sees more information than me,
Yeah.
right? And I'm just like, huh, this item looks cool. Let's put it on Skarner. Right,
Yeah.
that's how I play, because I like have fun, and then I'm like, oh, why am I doing poorly? Oh,
Yeah.
because you put tank items on your mage's booth.
Mhm.
Um, because you wanted to see if it would work. And guess what? It doesn't, or else other people would be doing it.
Right.
But yeah, I see Crowan play, and I'm like, huh. The way like everything seems so like regimented and like a dance to them, right? To like the highest ranked players, right? And it's all
Yeah.
about just cleanliness and polish, where I'm still getting a lot of the kinks out.
Yeah. I almost like and I'm sorry for everyone who doesn't think that this conversation is interesting. I think it's really interesting because it's like into the psyche of, because I feel like a lot of people play like this or like are at the same level where like you're playing competitively but not at as high level as you want to, right? And you want to improve. And this is the type of, like, this is my mindset as someone who's in plat, who's been in diamond and maybe could be better than that. I doubt it. Where like I see myself at the point where like, okay, I'm consuming the content. I see what the top meta comps are. I know that Inferno Warden and Summoner, Assassin Summoner, and Rangers and Berserkers and Blender. Like those are the comps that you want to be building. But I'm building that, like, that is the end, right? It's not the path there. The path there is just as important as the end, right? And that, I think, is where my hiccup is right now.
More important.
Yeah, it actually it is more important because
you can get you got to get from A to C, and B can be any number of paths, right?
Right, but it has to be certain ones. Like it can't be a. It has to be a certain.
Sometimes
path.
You take the path least traveled, to
Yeah.
the top 8, and sometimes you take the most clean and polished and most well done path to top 1. And it's all about that mindset, right? How you go into these games. Like if you're going into it expecting to lose, everything's such a self-fulfilling prophecy for your brain, right? So on the psychology today, we'll talk about esports and gaming. And I was in a marching band, so I was always like into like performance and the psychology of getting in the zone. And I was a music major too, so like what that's like to perform in front of people at a high level like you would on a stream, and blah blah blah. I always thought that I would probably play better on stream if I just streamed, right? Because people might be watching. So maybe that's a good way for me to get better. But in terms of tilting, it's just I'm not going to be Crowan.
Right.
I know what Crowan's doing if I like talk about it and analyze it later, right? But in the moment, right? Like I was making fun of you for it at game nights. It's just like you were hyper rolling so slowly.
Yeah.
Right.
It was. I'm so bad at it.
yeah. Like you were hyper rolling so slowly, and even like the way they like sell a unit just looks so much cooler than me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I 100% agree with you there, but I won't belabor the point. I'm not good. I think I'm getting better, and I'm at least understanding what, like, some of the things as to why I'm not doing as well as I am, and I think that realization is good, and a good mindset. So
yeah,
I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back here.
Good for you. I think really the next thing for you,
a lot.
yeah. Good. I think the next thing for you is just if you read more books, you might get smarter.
I might.
Yeah,
I very well might. But another way to get smarter, Boop, is to watch high-level tournament play. Ooh, I had the sweet transition there. We had a big tournament over the weekend. This was the EFOS GG Lobby 2 Invitational, which was a big one. I think in terms of
who was there?
In terms of who was there, in terms of like amount of combined challenger LP, this is probably the highest level of competition we have seen to date. I was trying to think, like, Twitch Rivals, definitely not. All Stars, no. I mean, I don't even mean that as a slight. I mean, it's just not.
Twitch, no. All Stars, no.
I mean,
what about a Fandom Legends?
Fandom Legends is close. Fandom Legends is very similar. Fandom Legends is the only one that I think is even close. But even then, I don't know. I think I think I don't know what the requirements were to get invited to this tournament, but it might have been you need to be in the top 100 or top 50 on the ladder, or like they invited everyone who was in the top 32, and then if someone either didn't respond, they just went down the line. Like 33 gets invited, 34 gets, that's what it seemed like at least. This was an invitational, but it was the like ladder based invitational. So, was a really good event. I highly recommend checking that out. You can if you look up the Ethos GG Twitter, you can find that. I'll just put a link to it in the show notes that you can check in the description. But our boy Crowan took it down after 2 days. Big win for C9's Crowan there. So super happy to see that, and just like, I mean, we've seen it across so many tournaments now, like consistency. Like Crowan gets that. And he like, I mean, we even saw it when we casted him in and I don't even remember what event it was, but we casted him and it was and it was like he doesn't spike the firsts that often. Like I think he got a first in day 1. But like he's like always top 4, like top 3, top 4.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think like once you kind of realize, all right, like winning might not be the best way to victory, right?
Yeah,
And
which is weird to think.
yeah, right. And there is some like tennis has a very, very similar kind of system, right?
Mhm.
Where I remember a couple years ago, a player named Caroline Wozniacki. This is my like odd sports ball knowledge. In the women's game, the number 1 player was a player who had never won a major, but like consistently made it to the semifinals for like a really long time, right? So is that person really number 1? I don't know. Like,
Right.
Is the most consistently good tennis player the best tennis player, or is it Serena Williams who plays 18 tournaments a year but wins 9 of them?
Right.
Right?
Mhm.
Like we and so like with TFT, it's kind of like, all right, is consistency the best way to show skill, right?
Right.
Is it more about is it more important to win these lobbies or get third place in all the lobbies, right? But where's that going to be weighted? I think that's like one of the biggest challenges when it comes to TFT esports is who is the best player, right? What
Right.
does that person look like? And I think Crowan is a really good example of that consistent player who pulls off those victories too, right? It's like, I have these comps that can beat these lobbies, but will most consistently be top 4 in these. So let's just go ahead and try to get these. And he's very good at the feeling of the game, right? When to
The game
transition.
sense.
Like
Yeah.
his game sense is some of the best out there for TFT, and
Yep.
that's one of those things that I think you're born with.
I I kind of disagree with that because like it almost like takes away from these players that have that. And like the only reason I don't think that is because I absolutely do not think I'm born with that at all. But I
Yeah.
know I have had that in
In other games.
Like
yeah, but at the same time, right?
not at the
Like
same level for sure.
yeah, the 7-year-old, like when I was a music major, there was always a 7-year-old who was better than me.
Oh,
Right? Like
absolutely.
he just had like a higher natural skill ceiling,
Yeah.
right? No, he started on a higher floor of his skill floor, right?
Yes. Yes.
Because my whole thing is I'm kind of the same way. I'm a fast starter, but like I never become like the best. I'll always be like your third place, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And yeah, I think Crowan just has like one of those minds that's just like fits this kind of game like a puzzle.
Sure.
Right? I bet he's good at chess. I bet he's good at like a lot of those like academic games like Go. Right? He was good at Heroes of the Storm, which was a very good game. Super underrated. But yeah, that game sense is why we see Crowan's name so often in all of these tournaments. He also plays in almost all of the tournaments.
True.
So he's given himself that opportunity too. When he's not playing, he's casting fight nights, right? Like he's all in on this TFT stuff, and it's good to see him becoming successful through what he loves.
Yeah, it's like just knowing like at so much earlier of a point than I ever get to, where you know what your finish can be, right? It's like being at level 6 or 7 and being like, oh, with my comp and my items, like I need to roll down now so that I don't get 8th. Like, or I need to roll down, and then if I get to like just being able to think that far out, and not even being able to think that far out, to like be able to assess the situation and actually get reasonable information that far out is something that I'm just not there yet. And I think a lot of people, like, that is the next level, where you watch Soju, you watch any of these players that are in the top, Crowan, or any of these top 50 players in Challenger. You see they're like, yeah, like they're like rolling down at places, and I'm like, why in the world are they rolling down? And they're like, yeah, this is a top 4 game. It's like, oh, okay. It's like where I'm like,
Like, how
I
do you
think I can
know
win
that?
this.
How do you know it's a top 4 game already? Right? How do you know? How do you even
Right.
know?
I mean, it at the end of the day, like, there's a lot of factors that they can see, but it's just playing hundreds and hundreds of games, like, and being able to take that information in and really absorb it. I think that's the biggest thing, and why we end up seeing that. One other thing I wanted to that was kind of on the front end of our conversation in this, is like, I think it would be interesting to see both sides of the tournament spectrum, where we have the, like, what we've seen traditionally in TFT, which is like, 3 or 4 game sets, sometimes more if it's over 2 days, where it's like you're getting scaling down number of points, where if you can win the tournament with a third, a fourth, a second, and a third. Like, you win the event with that, never getting first. We've seen, I think we actually saw Crowan do that before. Maybe I'm remembering incorrectly. It might have been someone else. But we saw Crowan make a very good run with, like, no first places whatsoever. But we could also see, like, the NCAA March Madness college basketball format, right? Where it's like, no one ever says that tournament is like the ultimate determiner of skill and will always produce the best team in the country. But that's one of the most exciting tournaments of
Yeah, man, Florida
anything.
Gulf Coast. All the way. I remember Steph Curry as a 10 seed from the University of Davidson almost beating Duke
Yeah.
to bring them to the Final Four back in like
Mm-hmm.
2006. Right? Like,
No, that wasn't that. Was
those are
that
the
that
things
far?
that
That was
I
like
think so.
2009, I think. I feel like we were in college when that happened. 2010,
Um,
maybe.
uh, well,
It doesn't.
Rory
It
State.
doesn't
Anyway,
matter.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But basically, like, it'd be cool if like there was like an initial tournament, like for like the TFT National Championship. It's maybe the weekend before
Yeah.
everyone plays. It's a 64 tournament pool, and then based on how many total points they get seeded into a bigger bracket, and we'll see what happens, right? I don't know how the fighting game community does those tournaments, but
They usually do double elim
yeah,
into reseed up to, like, top
yeah,
8 or
and then
whatever.
so you can like get seeded into specific lobbies, and those lobbies will eventually seed back into each other. I don't know, but
I think you just
I'm
do it.
excited to see what this brings. You know,
Yeah.
Mort did say, and this is a good transition to
Yes.
a quick little Mort retort, is Mort did say that esports is on the horizon, but everything, something that he did emphasize as we were talking like Mort retort stuff now,
Hmm.
is the fact that it has been reactionary
Hmm.
in terms of the success for TFT, and so they're catching up. They didn't. So it's confirmed that pretty much like, all right, we didn't initially plan
Hmm.
for this to be successful because it doubled their double expectation, right? Like, this is our reach
Right.
goal, and it doubled that expectation in terms of player base and popularity. And it's it's been pretty consistent. It seems like the people who play TFT are sticking around,
Hmm.
right? So they have to develop a scene after the fact, and when you're reactionary, right, as well as still trying to get this game out of beta, because it's still technically in beta, right?
Yeah.
um Things are going to have to be spread thin for a little while, and that was like one of the biggest things to me, was like, all right, maybe they don't have a specified direction that they want to go to in terms of esports. We've been talking a lot about format and
Hmm.
players like Crowan, and then there's players like Heaney that can just win a tournament,
Hmm.
right? And is it for the streamers? Is it this, and this? It really strikes me as the fact that they're still experimenting with all of that,
Hmm.
right? And that they don't have a spectator client just yet. All that stuff is super important to advance this as an esport, and it is reactionary. So it's probably going to go on the slower side, I
Hmm.
think, than anything else. That was the only thing that I heard from Mort that got me like to go, oh, right? Like,
Yeah.
I want it faster,
Yeah.
right? But I
I
totally
want it
understand.
now.
Yeah, and like I
Yeah.
know that like another team does esports, so that might cause a
Right.
couple more steps in the process.
Hmm.
But overall, like I just really want that spectator mode. I really want to be able to see as like a caster how many people are still in the pool. Like those are
Yes.
all stuff that can be in a spectator mode, and I'm not asking for a a Porsche with it, right? I just also want to watch my friends play,
Hmm.
right? Just like in general. And
Yep.
the fact that there wasn't a ton of information, like concrete information,
Hmm.
with that was the probably only really disappointing part of that. Everything else I thought was great. His whole ideology on game design made
Hmm.
me trust him just inherently,
Hmm.
but that was like the only thing of that whole process that I was like, I wish I could have heard a different answer, but I get it.
Yeah. I mean, I want I want spectator mode 2 months ago, honestly. But like it makes sense. It's limited resources. I mean it is what it is. We can I think that what is important is that they understand how important it is to us as a community. I think that they get that.
Yeah.
And mobile obviously is a huge thing. I'm personally super excited about mobile. I mean, some people balk at mobile game lol, not real game or whatever. I don't care about that. I love mobile games. Hashtag I'm a boomer. I want to be able to play my games on my phone. I have my PC, but I want to be able to play my games on my phone too. And also just the like, we talked about it on the episode too, with Mort. Just like the audience reach expansion is just insane, and I know for a fact just from watching it with Hearthstone, and I mean to a lesser extent like watching with Overwatch, like how that changed when they put it on consoles. Like when
Mhm.
they like that was huge. Like that's another expansion, and if they ever put it on mobile, I mean, who knows? I mean, that's a different game for a different time to talk about. But I know it's going to be huge, like in terms of the expansion. So we'll certainly be seeing people who are playing on mobile that are listening to the
Yeah.
show.
And it's
Um,
gonna increase the competitive pool, which is really exciting,
yeah,
right? Because if you don't have a PC to play this right now, right, we don't know the best TFT players might not have access to the game
right.
as we speak,
Hmm.
right? So that's going to be really exciting, but it's really going to push the agenda of what's next, right? Like you got it out on mobile, more people can play. What's next? Are we going to focus in on entertainment and streamers to keep this game going, and then every once in a while get some esports going? Or are we going to
Hmm.
start going the esports way? I think both directions have pros and cons, right? There isn't, I think,
Hmm.
an easy direction to take it, but after it's on mobile, we'll really know how much staying power this game has, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll definitely get to see what those next steps were. And so, yeah, what about you, man? What about the interview at Mort? Were you most excited, or maybe hoping to hear differently?
Um, I think honestly, one of the big things for me that was really reassuring was we asked, and I actually pulled this question from Deathblow, who is another TFT caster and my co-host on High Noon Podcast. Um, he asked about positioning because he has a hot take, and that is that he likes set one better than set two, which I think that's a tough one to defend. But his thing is, and the part of it that I agree with is that positioning in set one felt way more impactful than it does in set two. Um, I feel like there was so much positioning for assassins. There was positioning for Sejuani alts. There was positioning for
Gnarl,
Gnar alt, for Asol, for
Morgana,
Morgana. Just so much stuff.
Katarina,
Like it was
yeah.
a huge part of the game, and now it's like, well, two spots are pretty much always taken with the hexes unless they're in troll spots, and even then sometimes they still are. The board is bigger, so it's less like you can kind of pocket your guys a little bit. So like
There's a little bit more wiggle room.
there's some more wiggle room for sure. And I'm not saying I'm an expert on positioning because I certainly do get punished for making bad decisions. But it just seemed like, oh, and Hex Tech too. Let's not forget about positioning for Hex Tech as well. It just seemed like that was a bigger facet of the game, and I enjoyed it. I felt like that was one of the unlocks, and like just those little things. That's like, okay, I understand a concept of the game now, and I am demonstrably better than I used to be. And now I can point out when my opponents aren't doing that, and I know I'm going to win in a case where I might not have. That is a
Yeah.
satisfying thing to do when you are like, oh, I know I did something better than my opponent and I won because of it. That's a good thing for someone playing at a competitive level, I think.
Well, I think the thing that really kind of like supports your argument on like a latent way is the fact that it was really interesting because I couldn't put my finger on it, but it was the fact that we're missing ults like Sejuani's ult, like Leona's
Mm-hmm.
ult, like Cho'Gath's ult, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like these big, super impactful, super flashy
Mm-hmm.
ultimates that like really felt like you were doing something with them,
I mean, remember
right? Like
Pantheon? Like he literally like
yeah, in set 2 it's definitely
screamed and
more
then jumped
like
across the map.
there's a lot more utility ultimates,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's not a ton of like AoE comparatively. Like, yeah, Kiana's got AoE, but the thing that's closest is a Mumu, right?
Yeah,
In
Amumu
terms
is
of,
the
and it's a
biggest
rank
one.
5, and that's how no one has a misfortune ult, right? Like
Right.
these big ultimates that feel like ultimates,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that kind of goes along with what you're saying too. It's just like, all right, like I can position well, but you don't see why you're being rewarded for positioning in set 2 as much as
Mm-hmm.
you did in set 1, right? It's like, haha, you missed me with that ult. Now I'm gonna win with my Draven,
Right.
right? But now in set 2, it's more like, all right, my items are better,
Right.
and I have a little bit more gold, and my target selection was a little bit better, right? Instead of like having that be okay, I need a position here and here. But I think people kind of forget that the positioning I think also got a tad repetitive in set 1 too,
Yeah, it
where it
did.
was just kind of like against these comps, I position this way against these
Right.
comps, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there isn't something I do have noticed, like there isn't as much, when you're 1v1 against somebody and there was a blitzcrank on one team, right? Where you're
Oh,
just like
Blitzcrank.
constantly
I
moving your
forgot
unit,
about Blitzcrank.
right? Where
Yes.
you're like kind of like constantly moving your unit until the clock goes down and you play
Right.
that like mini game of, all right, you're not going to hook my carry. You're not
Right.
going to hook my carry, right? Like that doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
It does occasionally
It's just
for
Zephyr
assassins
basically.
and
Yeah,
stuff,
and
but
kind of assassins.
not like the same, not in the same way. And that's one thing that I think I do miss is kind of like that. Like he said, the fantasy of a Sejuani Blizzard, a Solar
Mm-hmm.
Flare from Leona, a
Mm-hmm.
Rupture from Cho'Gath, right? Now that we're in set 2, those things don't feel. Some of them still like. I'll always have an opinion on Gnar, but some of them I think would work really well in our current meta, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if there was some more AOE? And I think that's probably what they're going for set 3, especially since Mort brought that up himself. So
Right.
we'll see. We'll see what's going on.
Yeah, the other thing that was interesting to me about that interview um was that I think it was almost like and I guess this is just kind of more in general. It's like he doesn't give the PR answers, like, which is just such a weird and refreshing thing. Honestly, is it's like, oh well, how do you think set two's going? It's like, well, set two's going. We had a lot of plans, and it's going well now. But we're always looking to blah blah. It's like, no, you actually just kind of gave a good answer, like a real answer. Like, yeah, we learned some stuff, and I think that like the elemental hexes, for instance, it's like, yeah, I think that they kind of worked out, but they don't seem like like they did take away a lot, right? Like we talked about
Mhm.
with positioning. It's like, wow, how often do you get a game developer to say, yeah, this didn't really work out exactly how we wanted
Or
to? Like,
anybody. Or
right,
anybody, especially in today's day and age where it's just like the rule is to not apologize,
right,
right? Like you don't give room. You don't. There is no middle ground,
right,
right? So it's nice to see someone like accept that nuance and be like, okay, okay, you might be a little forceful in your opinion, but I see where it's coming from.
right.
Or yeah, no, you're totally like he agreed with us on a couple things, right? It's just like he talked about the fantasy of the game. He brought up how important mobile was and how
Mm-hmm.
much effort has been put into mobile, kind of like and once mobile's out, the rest of the art and everything else will probably get a little bit more steam to get picked
Mm-hmm.
up. There's been some changes in team there, but overall, I think he told the truth, and I appreciated that because he didn't need to, right? And
Right.
like our hands would have been tied. Like we could have dived super deep, but we didn't need to because he answered the questions that he thought he knew we were trying to ask, as
Mm-hmm.
well as what the people wanted to,
Right.
particularly like how open he was about challenger players and
Mm-hmm.
how to balance the game and stuff like that. But I mean, I was very impressed with Mort and in general, and I was very, very happy to have him on because the only
Mm-hmm.
disappointment I have is just like a personal thing, right? It's just like, okay, you got to walk before you run. I
Right.
totally understand, but if you have an esport event coming up, and you get a chance to recommend a couple people, you have a
Yeah,
professional caster and a volunteer right here.
it's true. It's true. You sure do. Yeah, I it, I just want the spectator mode, not even like, because I just want there to be more tournaments that are run, and I think they do too, because it's a win-win, right? And they understand that. Like, the more tools they give us with spectator mode, the more. I mean, we're already seeing tournaments that just aren't being streamed. Like, I see there's like at least a couple of monthlies, and there's a league or something. I think Team Liquid is doing another like open league where it's just like you can just join and play for like $20 or like just like you're playing for a $25 gift card, and they've got like 100 people signed up for it. It's like, it would just be so nice if, you know, us two could just jump in and just cast a couple of those lobbies, like without
Yeah, just
having
like
to go
ZP
through
and
the whole
Hex
room.
did for Overwatch back in the
Yeah,
day, right?
absolutely. And like, it's cool because we have Jules and Giant Slayer that like have the capability to run the tournaments like at such a high production quality. But like, it would be nice if like we also, like, it would be easier for them to do it. Spectator. It would remove a lot of burden on their end as well. But also, like, I would love to cast fight nights, and not like right now I have to play in the games, or else, I mean, I'm a horrible spectator, by the way, while I'm playing, but like, I have to play in the games in order to like, so that the stream can see them.
Yep.
So I don't know, but enough of that. Guys, definitely, if you didn't check it out, if you're here for your first time, check out last episode 21. We did interview Mort Dog, which we've been talking about for the last 10 minutes. So definitely make sure you check that out. It's a great episode, a great listen. And if you like even just like game design in general, like we went deep with that. Like, that was, we got a lot of insights there, and a lot of insights into the beginning of TFT, which I thought were super interesting. And like you mentioned, the expectations are blown out of the water, and this, that, and the other. So definitely check that out. For sure. One last thing I wanted to mention before the break is that two things, actually. So we did have another Giant Slayer Fight Night, and shout outs to H2211, who ended up winning that tournament with the Viger comp I alluded to earlier. I really want him to make a video guide, although I'm pretty sure he confirmed that he's not going to, because it's a super secret comp. But now it's out in the open, man. People know about Vigar, so you might as well make the guide and capitalize on the fame. Yeah, so check that out. The videos on Giant Slayer TV's YouTube as well. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that this Thursday, they're going to be doing a Giant Slayer, I believe it's called Rising event, which they've teased a couple of details. But by the time you're listening to this in podcast realm, I believe they're going to be shipping out the rest of those details. So definitely check that out. It's going to be similar to Fight Night, but a little bit different. So definitely check that out. But we are going to be getting into the meat and potatoes of this show after the break, where we go over patch 10.1 like we always do. We'll catch you right after the break. Guys, if you are liking the show, please make sure you leave a review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to us there. And you can subscribe to us and check us live on Twitch at twitch.tv/theblevins. Of course, the home of all of our content is at discord.me/littlelegendspodcast. Hey guys, you hear us talk about all these fun things that we're doing every week, the game nights, the now giveaways, all this awesome stuff. It all happens on the Discord. Go to discord.me/littlelegendspodcast. Join the community today. You're not going to regret it. Welcome back, everyone, from the break. We're back to talk about patch 10.1 for TFT. So we'll jump right into it from Riot Beer Nana. Greetings, tacticians. Good to see y'all again for New Year of Teamfight Tactics. Our first patch of the new decade is a big one and features one new trait, 2 new champions, and 3 new items, which are replacing a few old ones. And the typical lineup of balance changes and adjustments. Here are the highlights. Defensive team composition should see a boost from the new lunar trait and the introduction of Leona. There's a word for you. Introduction of Leona and Karma to the lineup. A number of items now scale with their wearer's star level. Light has both been buffed as a trait from a number of Light has been buffed both as a trait and from a number of individual champions. Last but not least, New Year of TFT wouldn't be complete without a few new little legends, which we actually already talked about and how they taste. You can get that tier, get our taste tier list 2 episodes ago. Keep an eye out for new friends who should be available later this week. Woo! I'm
good on Kiki, man. These 3 don't really
I'm
speak
really
to me
good on
from the other
Kiki,
one.
but man, I still kind of want to open some packs because I have
Just
a
to have,
gambling.
you know?
I have a gambling problem.
It's like scotch, right? You'll
Yeah.
have the same bottle for like 3 years.
I like to have a little bit of I like to have a couple extra like go-tos for little legends as well. But we're gonna start off with the big stuff, the new stuff, Lunar. New trait. It's a two stack, so there's only 2 lunar units, and you need to have both of them out for this to work. Every 7 seconds, your team gains 15% critical strike chance, 15% critical strike damage, and 10% spell power, which stacks up to 4 times. Note that each round of TFT is 30 seconds until Earth mode, so 2 seconds before overtime kicks in, this is going to be triggered. So just to have a little bit of perspective here for that. Do you want to talk about Leona or Karma, Boop? Your pick.
I'll do Leona.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, both of these characters are some of the first characters I ever played in League of Legends. Karma used to be garbage, like so bad, like meme-worthy bad. Oh, you remember? That's when you were playing.
No, Karma came out after I played, I think.
Yeah, but she was good against Twisted Fate, which was like weird. Anyway, Leona, tier 1, class warden, health 650, then 1170, and then 2106. Those are some interesting numbers.
Very interesting numbers.
Armor 40, attack damage 5090 to 162. And this is a tier 1 unit, so getting it to rank 3 is a possibility. Attack speed is 0.55 at all ranks. Mana is 5100. Ability, Lunar Barrier. Leona reduces all damage done to her by 40, 90, 140 for 5 seconds, so she becomes tankier. This was something that Mort talked about too, was kind of like, oh, we don't want the game to be tanks and ranged carry every single time. That was something about set 1 that he wanted to change.
Yep.
And so now I don't think we've ever truly gotten like a tank meta, right? Where it was truly like brawlers kind of, but the carry was Jinx or Draven.
Knights. 4 Knights.
Oh yeah, I
but
guess
the carry
Golden
was still the carry was still Jinx or Draven in that. Or
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Like where there is no ranged carry, it really is just beef.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that hasn't
Leona
really
would
happened. I mean,
definitely fit in that
thing,
fantasy.
Yeah.
Damage mitigation, just and it's not just physical damage; it's all damage. And 90 less damage stacked over 4 different spells. It's 200 damage, right? Got a good amount of health, 1170. Put a couple Warmogs on her. I think she could be good. I wonder what kinds of things she's going to be able to do, because she's not making other people tanky, right? It's not like Ivern Shield. This one's just for her, so she's definitely going to be frontlining.
Well, she does it. She reduces the damage for each instance, right? So this is good against Inferno, which does the ticks. So every tick is reduced by at level 290. So I don't know the Inferno ticks off the top of my head, but that might just completely reduce Inferno entirely for 5 seconds. Any like Ranger type comps that are doing a ton of attacks and like it's reducing each time. Now she still gets crit just as hard, or I mean slightly less hard, but so she'll be an interesting one. I mean, I'm not really writing home about her with her her ability. I think it's all right. Seems kind of like a worse Nasus,
yeah, it kind of accomplishes the same thing, but the damage mitigation is nice.
It certainly is nice. Her value is really going to, I think, be directly correlated to the value of Lunar. And not just running. I mean, she'll also the value of Lunar, and I guess the value of having 4 or 6 Warden she enables those much more easily. 2 Warden's already very easy to get, but very interesting unit. And I mean, it's always interesting to see new ones, but she is, I mean, I actually think she's kind of not an interesting unit, but Lunar is interesting, and what Lunar enables can be interesting, but she as a unit in a vacuum is kind of meh to
Lunar is
me.
a little bit more of like a generalized type of thing, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you get crit strike chance and extra damage, right? So you think Rangers, but you also get spell power,
Right.
right? So we'll see what kind of like maybe another kind of Blender comp might come into play. We never know.
I've got some opinion, some hot takes on Blender that we'll talk about later. But the other Lunar unit here is Karma. She's a tier 3 Mystic Lunar, or Lunar Mystic. Health is 600, 1080, 1944. Armor is going to be 20. Attack damage is 50, 90, 162. Is that the same? Yeah, it is. That is the same as Leona. Same attack damage. Attack speed 0.7, so attacks a little bit faster. Mana is 75, 100, so has a relatively like middle total mana, but only needs 25 mana to cast initially. So that's what, 1 auto attack if she has any tier item. And if she has a Seraph, just auto cast. Her ability is Inspire, and at the start of combat, Karma tethers to her closest ally. Karma shields the tethered ally, or a random one if the tether is dead, for 5 seconds, absorbing the next 250, 400, or 800 damage. While the shield holds, the ally receives 60, 70, 80% bonus attack speed. Now, this is an interesting unit.
Her and Master Yi are gonna go good together.
Master Yi. Ever heard of this guy named Nocturne? Ever heard of this guy named Olaf? Ever heard of this gal
Well,
named
Master Yi is also a
Ash?
mystic, so that was like
True.
the other thing about it.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, the addition of Mystic. I mean, so I'm not actually well, 4 Mystic is now easier to hit, right? Because you have an extra
Yep.
Mystic. I don't know how relevant that's going to be, but I mean, the meta will play that out. You generally want, in an ideal situation, you want the Soraka and the Nami as your Mystics. Not, I mean, you want Mystic, but you more so want the Silence from Soraka and the giant AoE stun and damage from Nami. And also
It's
they
like
happen
the
to be
only one
Mystic.
in the game,
Right. One
right?
like
Yeah,
the actual epic
one of two.
spell of set 2
Yeah.
is Nami, it seems. So Karma is a very different role because she has that mystic class, but she is well, actually she's kind of like a combat plus. It's like combat plus
Well,
support.
what I see her really helping with is getting like an Olaf comes to mind, right? Getting her
Hmm.
shield on someone who has life steal. So when they get the
Hmm.
60, 70, 80% attack speed, it's making
Hmm.
them extra tanky. The
Hmm.
shield will hold through so the attack speed can kind of stack up. And then, like, say you have Rage Blade or something on
Yeah.
this person, or maybe it's an Ash
Right.
that receives the buff. Maybe
Right.
has a Bloodthirster on it. I don't know, but it's going to allow that DPS to do a little bit more damage. And so that's
Hmm.
kind of like how I see it happening. I don't know if we're going to see a lot of Karma helping with tanks, maybe, because I mean 250, 400, how much shield is a locket?
It was 300. It's changing, which
Three
we'll talk
shields.
about.
250, 275, 300.
Yeah.
So this one is 250, 400. So at rank 2, it's better than a
Right.
locket.
Hmm.
So we
But only
could
in one
see
unit.
like maybe stack 3 lockets on Karma, and she gets that extra shield on another unit. So at rank 2,
It's a
it'd be
lot of
350.
shield.
Yeah, it'd be like over 1,000 in shielding for one unit.
Yeah.
So
That's that's big.
we'll see how that goes.
Also interesting that I saw this played in PBE, and this is a new thing, and Mort has called it a new targeting paradigm. So we have not actually seen something like this. So you move her around, and like you can visibly see the link pair between her and another unit.
So you can choose correctly.
You can choose correctly, yes. So like that's not something we've seen in TFT yet. Where I mean, we've seen like Zephyr will like you can kind of see the little
I
like whirlwind
think
where it goes.
me thinks that Karma is definitely someone who they're trying some set 3 stuff with.
Yeah. Yep.
Same thing with some of these item changes, because it
Mm-hmm.
was heavily alluded to that items are going to be changing for set 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if like these scaling items are another one of those kind of
Mm-hmm.
tests, right? Because the
Mm-hmm.
gloves were the same thing for the set 2 items, right? For
Right.
set 1. So I wonder if in set 3 we're going to see more items that scale with level.
Right.
Um,
I would not be surprised.
yeah, because that's a fantasy, another term that more
Right.
like to use that we haven't seen just yet. But I like Karma as like an idea. It's not going to be
Mm-hmm.
like the flashiest thing in the world, but if you're not at least going to try to stack shields for the memes, then you're not. I don't think you're doing it right.
Mort also pointed out in his 10.1 recap that she's like the Spear of Shojin machine, where she wears a Spear of Shojin quite well because like if you keep casting that Inspire ability, that's pretty good, and
And shields get
also
affected by AP.
right also gets affected by AP, and also gets Spear of Shojin doesn't give
There's no AP, but there's
yeah,
it
but
will get affected by AP.
also if you put the spear on the person that she's tethered with, that means with the attack speed they're casting more and more. So definitely interesting. I think she adds a nice little wrinkle, and I think that
So that
there's
could actually work with some mages. We'll see.
yeah, I think that Karma like gives. I think she's going to enable some crazy things because like that's a big amount of it's
You
a big
get
amount of
your
attack speed
Well, it's guaranteeing that
quickly.
person gets an ult. No matter
Right.
who you're tethered to, that
Right.
person's gonna ult,
Right.
and will get their second ult faster.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see, just like you said, how much impact it's gonna have. I think Lunar is
Right.
gonna be a big deal. The hard part about
Mm-hmm.
Lunar is you have to have Leona and Karma.
Mm-hmm.
And Leona's a Warden, Karma is a Mystic, so Lunar Warden seems to be the flavor of the month right now on PBE.
Right. It
But
does seem like that's the level one. That's what people are doing. It's like, oh, just the super tank comp. Okay, cool.
yeah.
Let's see what beats that, and then let's see what beats that, and then we'll get the rock paper scissors going.
Yep, Giant Slayers might be coming into play.
Yeah, and also what might be coming into play is the new item Last Whisper, which is
Hell yeah.
kind of like a Giant Slayer-esque item. This is the new repeating crossbow item, Sparring Glove plus Recurve Bow. This Last Whisper says critical hits reduce the target's item by 90% for 3 seconds. This effect does not stack. So this is going to be good on units that are going to be hitting. Yeah, the tank shredder. So throw this on your rangers, and all of a sudden those wardens are going to melt pretty quickly.
Yeah, it makes some sense too, because Last Whisper is a ranger item in the regular game, and I like it when that
when there's the lineup, when
out,
there's
right?
yeah,
like Last Whispers, the people building Last Whisper in League of Legends are rangers, so I would hope that the rangers are good with Last Whisper. You know what I mean?
I absolutely do. I mean, I don't catch the reference because I'm a TFT only player, but I do think it is actually legitimately valuable to have that correlation, because if you can't, I'm sure that when you came over originally and played TFT, Boop, you probably were like, oh, just like naturally, like, oh, I don't really know how good these items are, but this item is good on this character in League, so I'm going to try it here and see if that works, like just naturally.
Yep.
And I was doing that, but I didn't even know what I was doing, and that's why I was losing so much.
This next item is really interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think it's good to talk about these 3 items together because they all kind of interact with each other. Titan's Resolve, when it's Chain Vest and Recurve Bow, it's replacing Phantom Dancer. So you nerf that into the ground, so now it's just not in the game.
Get him out of here.
Pepperidge Farm remembers when that was the strongest item in the game. When the wearer is hit or inflicts a critical strike, they gain a 2% stacking damage bonus up to 100%. At 50 stacks, the wearer gains 25 armor and MR and increases its size. Resets every round. So this is definitely something you can put on a tank. The tank that Karma might be buffing. And they'll get tankier and tankier. Like again, another like true tank item
Mm-hmm.
to have your tank actually do damage to, because that was always the problem with brawlers, right?
Yep.
You need a Jinx, you need a Draven,
Mm-hmm.
because then you just wouldn't be doing enough damage. This way, like if you could put a Titan's Resolve on a Volibear from back in the day, could you imagine?
Oh, that would be sick. I have two very important questions about this. The first one is legitimately important. How do the stacks work with armor? So if they have that 1,000 armor or whatever from our super locket karma, do they start getting stacks when they get hit regardless, or do they start getting stacks when they start taking HP from like actual HP and not the shield damage,
So
or not armor,
usually
shield
it's
rather?
through when they hit the HP. So there might be a reason to not put this on the person with karma.
Okay,
You're
so
totally right.
there,
But
yep. So
um,
there's like a Nambo there, possibly. I don't actually know how
kind
that
of,
works.
but at the same time, like once that shield runs out, then this would start stacking and make them
Right.
tanky again. So
Yeah.
we shall
Um.
see.
Yeah. This is an interesting one. Oh, and the other, arguably even more important question is, if I stack 3 of these on them, do I get the size growth 3 times? Am I getting gigantic, or is there a minimum? Or
That's a really important question.
like
Mort,
Mort?
excuse me, Mort.
Excuse me, Mr. Mort. Excuse me, Mr. Mort. Does the character grow in size 3 times that day, or does it only grow in size once?
Because there's nothing better than putting mittens on Yordles.
That was such a
Right.
great thing. It
And
was
making them
great.
extra
They get
small.
small.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was
It's
fun.
just like make all of your Yordles really small. Like I love that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're gonna miss with your Cho'Gath. Ha ha ha. So the next item is, I think, the one that most people are talking about.
Yes.
It is Bramble Vest.
Bramble.
Recipe 2 chains vest. That's how it is written.
It says 2 chain.
Replaced Thornmail, negates bonus damage from incoming critical hits.
So that's what Phantom
Being
Dancer
hit
used
by a
to do.
basic attack, deal 80, 120, 160 magic damage to all nearby enemies. So basically, when this person gets crit, they do damage.
Yes. Yes, and that 80, 120, 160 is scaling just like the abilities on the hero. So this is the first example of the abilities or the item scaling with champion level. So very interesting. So the rule of thumb for this is obviously look at the middle number, because that your 2-star unit is where you're going to be most of the time. So this does a $120 when getting hit with a crit. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how. I mean, this does seem good. This does seem kind of like the anti. It's kind of like Thornmail plus Phantom Dancer, right? At least in some capacity. So it's like kind of the anti um
The anti-established. It's a disruptor.
yeah, it's the
This was
anti-assassin or
obviously,
anti-blender.
yeah, this was geared towards like those blender comps with like nocturnes
Mhm.
and stuff like that. You put the Bramble Vest on every time you get, that double crit on you with like the Blade Master buff. They're going to be taking 240 damage in response,
Yeah.
right?
And that's
You
to
still might be
all
dead
nearby
anyway.
enemies, not just the one
Yeah,
that crit you.
yeah.
So it's
So
doing
like
AoE.
say like you have this on your one of your Zeds. Every time one of your Zen buttons gets hit, it will do AoE damage at least 100,
Oh,
at
wait a
least 80 or
second.
120.
Oh, this is one being hit by a basic attack.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought it was only on when it. Oh, so it negates crits, and
it
then
negates
also
crits.
whenever you get hit by any attack, not a crit attack, just
Yep.
any attack, deal up at a maximum every 1 second. So if you're attacking more than once a second, it doesn't do more than that. It only is once per second. But oh, okay, I'm way more in on this item. I was like, well, I was like, it's only really like doing a little bit of damage because you're only gonna get crit. How many times are you gonna get crit around? But it's nope. It's just every basic attack.
Yeah,
Okay,
like so
I'm
think
in.
about like once every second, right? So you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
definitely get this off a couple times, but that
Yeah.
should be pretty good against these Blade Master comps. That
Mm-hmm.
uh, I believe it triggers off of like the Sivir ult anytime it like
I would
double
think so.
hits You're going to be doing like return damage. So this is kind of like a retaliation.
Well, it doesn't do
tactic.
damage to. It won't do damage to the Sivir. So it only.
Yeah, but it would do damage to the AoE, so it's like
Yes. Yep.
retaliation in a
Mm-hmm.
sense of like, hey, you're gonna go this high attack speed because this would
Yeah.
be good against rangers as well
Yeah.
on a tank, and
Yep.
so another item that's gonna make tanks pretty good, but we'll see what that means if that's gonna be fun. Because if tanks are good, that means that the games will last longer.
Right.
Because there's more HP, and I'm not sure that's the best thing right now.
Right.
But I haven't gotten to play with PB. I'm coming into this pretty clean, so these
Same.
are all just like
I've just
my
seen a little bit of it.
smooth-brained theory crafting here. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Tank's getting some good items just in general,
Yeah. Absolutely. We've
and
got
these mini reworks are going to help them too.
Yeah, we've got a couple of mini reworks here, and we'll talk about these together. We've got Frozen Heart. Before, it slowed nearby enemies' attack speed by 25%. Now, it slows nearby enemies' attack speed by 40%. But stacking them increases the radius of the effect, not the amount of the slow.
Yeah, so
So,
think a Moo ult on when you level him, right?
yes.
It's 1 hex on level 1.
Well, now it's
And
the
then if
same
you have a
across all
second,
of them.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's a bit. It will get a bigger effect. So you probably want exactly one of these. You don't really need multiple, but they. I mean, Mort talked about it in the recap, but like Frozen Heart kind of was the redheaded stepchild when Iceborne Gauntlet came in, because Iceborne Gauntlet did the same thing and had a bigger upside.
Impact.
Yep. But
Iceborne Gauntlet doesn't do the same thing anymore.
right, they changed it. So now what it was before, of course, when you dodge an attack, you create the zone of ice with attack speed reduced by 25%. Now, after casting a spell, the wearer's next basic attack freezes the target for 1.5 seconds.
Make your character a glacial.
Yeah. So this is, I guess, like Kog'Maw item? Kog'Maw anyone?
Jax.
Well, no, wait, no. It's really, I mean, it would be decent on Jax. Oh, wait, because does Jax's thing count as a.
Yeah, it counts as dodge.
Well, no. This doesn't do anything with dodge anymore.
Oh, sorry. I was reading before. Man, my brain is off.
I was,
After
well,
casting a spell.
well,
That's
because I was
right.
like,
So anyone
does.
with a lot of spells.
Yeah, well,
Ezreal.
does. Ezreal, yeah. I mean, Ezreal already kind of does this, so you'll never know if it was his glacial proc or this that was doing it. But I'm wondering if does Jax. So Jax casts a spell. Oh no, but he attacks while he's casting a spell, so it wouldn't do it anyway. I was like, does his ability going off count as an attack?
This could actually be. If you want to make like Kindred a glacial, that could be really good.
Ooh, yeah.
Who else just kind of like uses their ult a lot?
Vigar. So after Vigar casts his spell and annihilates the unit, he'll freeze the next thing.
Next one.
I mean, that actually could be pretty good now that I think about it.
All right, let's talk about Ionic Spark. Yeah, let's talk about Ionic Spark a little bit.
I'll delete that part out so that people don't know about that broken comp right there.
Before, deal 92 damage to an enemy when they cast a spell. Now, enemies within 3 hexes that cast a spell are zapped, taking magic damage equal to 200% of their max mana. So it's going to be, again, kind of like an Amumu ult. You're going to have to put this on a tank or an assassin. And I don't know if you're really... I guess you could put it on an assassin, but tank's really getting better this patch.
Yeah, I'm wondering if
I just think we should take this item out. But...
I don't know if I agree with that, but maybe I do. But regardless, I'm wondering if this is just making the ability more complicated so that we think it's doing more than it actually is, when really it's doing the exact same thing. Like, am I wrong about that? Like, it basically took the damage that it did, just regardless, and
so
just
you're not
focused
gonna be able,
it more.
You're not going to be able to put it on like Kog'Maw in Predators because it just won't work that way. You're going to have to use Lumens instead.
Put it on the.
You're going to be using it on Skarner most likely.
I think it was better on Skarner anyway.
Yeah, or
Rek'Sai.
yeah, Skarner is probably the only one. Rek'Sai maybe if you can't like stack your Skarner, because Skarner's getting a pretty big buff as well. And he's going to be like in the fight for a while. So that's they're moving it into like a little bit. These items are becoming a little bit more class related rather than generalized, which I think is really really nice.
I think that they, instead of taking it just does a bunch of little zaps of damage across the map. Regardless, it's now like focusing that in and doing more damage in a smaller area. I think that's actually kind of better, but maybe not, because like this was better against Kindred. Now it's probably worse against
Yeah,
Kindred.
this is like a direct nerf to Kog'Maw more than anything
Yeah,
else.
right.
So we'll see how things are adjusted, because Kog'Maw was able to be safe, trigger Ionic Spark as well as Static Shiv, as well as like Luden's Echo in that comp. So plus be poison, and we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I think this is more so a nerf to Kog'Maw, but it does affect positioning, right? It's going to force you to put it on someone who's going to live long enough, right? And because that person,
And
because it
also
has to be
be in
within
the
3
fight.
hexes,
Yeah.
would probably have to be someone who needs to be tanky. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is pretty big if you think about how big an Amumu alt is. Like that, it's pretty big, but you still
yeah.
need to be.
Your carries, it's going to make positioning for your carries on the opposite side a little bit more interesting too.
Yes, true. This next one is, I think, might be the biggest item in the game, and this might be broken level, and I think this limits design space kind of. I could be wrong, but this is it. Quicksilver, an item you probably didn't realize was in the game. Before, you gained a spell shield that prevented the next crowd control from applying. This shield refresh after 3 seconds. Basically never used it, unless you got it for free. Now it is unique, so you can only have one on the champion, which is more of a quality of life, so that you don't accidentally put 2 on this, because it wouldn't do anything. The wearer is immune to crowd control.
That's it. Full
That's
stop.
it.
Where is immune to crowd control?
Am I overblowing this? Is this not just broken?
So
Like,
think about who has crowd control, right?
Amumu, a lot of the wardens, a lot of
I mean, not really.
I mean, Amumu,
Nautilus does.
Nautilus,
Thresh doesn't.
Thresh doesn't. Not a lot of the wardens. A lot of that warden comp. The Kiana, Amumu's the biggest one. Nami.
So I think, methinks,
Mhm.
this would have been broken in set 1. I don't think
Yes.
there's like a
Yes.
ton. I don't think there's like a ton of hard CC in the game right now.
I mean,
That is as effective as like the hard CC. I think maybe it's overpowered, but
I think it's
it
really good late
will.
game.
It definitely. And Quicksilver is an item that you would put on like your AD carry if like there's a lot of CC on the other side. So it's not really an item that you're gonna need early game
Right.
anyway, right? So this is definitely like late game. Like my carry's getting bonked by Kiana every single time. They seem to be
Right.
moving me everywhere, or you know what I mean. And so now it's time to do Quicksilver just in case. So I know like my DPS is gonna get the DPS in.
Well, my whole thing, and I could be wrong because the items we just talked about maybe doing enough to kind of quell the blender, but my whole thing with like having played blender a decent amount is like, if Nocturne just gets the chance to attack a bunch, he's gonna like kill the whole team and live because of how his passive works. So what stops the blender is like having him jump, and he doesn't attack, he'll automatically kill somebody, but then like the succession of stuns happens. He'll get Nautilus alted, he'll get Nautilus alted, into Malphite alted, into Kiana stunned, into Nami stunned, into or Amumu usually happens first sometimes. It's like, in that comp, there's like 5 pieces of CC, and if they target, and sometimes they even have oh god, I was doing so well with remembering the names of champions. What's her name? Mountain Mage.
You got it.
Talia. Yep.
Yeah.
I did get there. I couldn't stop thinking of Kiana for some reason, which I usually forget more than Talia. Like there's a lot of stun, and if your Nocturne gets hit, you probably lose. Like he survives one. Like he'll sometimes survive the um or he'll usually survive one because of steel. And then the second one will end him. He'll like gain up to like 70% health, and then he'll die from the second one because of Inferno and stunning and getting focused after steel is off. But now it's like you stop that, you stop the first one. That's an like every stun that is prevented by this is killing an extra 1 or 2 units. And depending on where he is, if he's clumped, that's an extra like those attacks are killing more stuff.
Unless they all have bramble vests.
Unless they have bramble vests, which I don't know what he would need. I don't know the numbers if he can actually out damage a bramble vest at some point, but he might be able to. Maybe not actually because it stops crit. So I could be wrong. Like the number, they may have five-headed the numbers and thought right through my, or prevented right through my thought process here. So
We
kudos
won't
to
know
them.
until the patch is live, right? Could go
Right.
either way.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I think it like, I mean, you think about how good Olaf is when he ults. Like that, this is giving the Olaf ult, like the second part of the Olaf ult to anyone. So I don't know. It's a very powerful. Maybe it's not as impactful in this meta or right now, but I'm a little wary of this one.
Seems like we're kind of going to be moving into like a defensive, like kind of oriented war of attrition.
Yeah.
I don't know. Assassins could be good, maybe. Probably not, but
Right. Well, yeah.
we don't know until it goes live. But my gut is telling me a lot of these items are defensively focused,
Mhm.
right? So they went into it with kind of like the thought of, okay, let's make this utility a little bit better to help some of these other comps shine that have been getting shredded by these blender comps.
Mhm.
Because you think of the Nocturne, but you put this item on someone else to maybe just push in the same
Put it on
kind
a
of
Mumu.
damage as Nocturne or something, right? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the rest. So these next items are going to have scaling changes. So
Yes.
instead of being flat the whole time, each one will get better as the unit that the item is currently on ranks up. So those items are going to be Locket, 250, 275, 300. Luden's Echo is going to be 120, 160, 200. And Static Shiv is going to go to 3, 4, 5 enemies chained together. And I like this. It's a lot more dynamic. It's rewarding you for finding those items and units that use them really well to get them to upgrade their abilities while not being absolutely like Static Shiv only hitting 3 enemies at the beginning isn't terrible. So
Right.
yeah, so they're not going to be awful starting, but the better you are RNG is, the better these items get. So
Yep.
it's going to be real nice for you Predator players that are already getting rank 3 Kog'Maws and stuff.
One thing to note: Locket is a straight nerf. It went from now the 3-star Locket is as good as the normal one was, so everything else is worse. So Locket is a straight nerf. Luden's Echo is a burf. At 2-star, it's better than it was. 3-star, it's obviously way better, but at 1-star, it's worse. So take that for what it's worth. And then Static Shiv is probably a burf, but is very different because it's dealing a smaller chunk of damage, but to more enemies at 2-star and 3-star. So, in the cases where that's better, it's obviously a buff. In the cases where that's worse, it's obviously a nerf. So, burf it up. The last 3 items here are just straight nerfs: Hush, Red Buff, and Morellonomicon. All very Red Buff or Morello Nomicon specifically, I think was one of the best items. Still, probably will be one of the best items. Changed the burn from 20% over 10 seconds to 18 over 10 seconds. So just a small little tweak. Mort again mentioned in his rundown that Red Buff probably didn't need this nerf because it's not as good as Morello is, but for game clarity's sake, they want those 2 things to be the same. For the burn. And then Hush, just a straight proc chance from 25% down to 20. Still probably good on the champs that it's good on, like Sivir and Olaf, but it's not quite as devastating. Procking only 1 out of 5 attacks instead of 1 out of 4. So
that's still a lot of time that you're losing too, right? Like,
yeah.
that one extra attack might
Mm-hmm.
be a death sentence for your character.
Absolutely. Okay, so we talked about this in the break. We're going to kind of run through a lot of these changes, and we're not going to go over all the numbers. If you really want to dive into the numbers, the notes, the patch notes in the description are going to have. I'll have the link in there so you can check all the numbers yourself. But
We get into some deep number talk in the Discord too.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. If anyone wants to number crunch and math them out, post them in the Discord somewhere, and I will highlight them or something because I think it's really interesting. I'm just too smooth brained to do it, and don't have the time to wrinkle my brain enough to do it well. So, long story short, here we're getting a Druid health regen buff.
first time they've been buffed in forever.
Yeah, I think literally ever. So
literally forever.
Yeah, light attack speed bonus is going up in general. We're also going to talk about some light champion
pretty
buffs,
big attack speed buff at rank that
at 9. At 9,
Yeah,
9 light is 55% attack speed. So we're gonna, whew, if you get that, that's a lot. And a nerf to ocean on mana regen. And shadow, 3 shadow buff, actually 3 and 4 shadow buff, both getting buffed up to not quite where they were 2 patches ago, but slightly better than they were now. So just an extra 5% on 3 and 6, an extra 10% on 6 shadow.
Yeah. And then as we go into champion balance, something that you guys probably have noticed so far is a lot of these items are getting buffed. So I think we've had a couple patches, and a lot of these units are going to be buffed. Not all of them; some of them are getting nerfed.
Mm-hmm.
But for the majority of, I think, this particular patch, I think we're seeing buffs for the first time in a while. There's been a lot of nerfing going on.
Yep.
And I'm excited to kind of see what buffing some other stuff is going to do to affect the game along with some of these items. Because they, light is underperforming, has been the most obvious underperforming comp, I think, for a while now. And are these kind of tankier, because light has some tankier units, or some of these better tankier items going to help them out, the Jaxes, the Nastuses, right, along with some other stuff to put them back. So let's let's talk about it. So at tier 1, Vayne is going to get a little tankier, and her percent health on her silver bolts are going up as well. Warwick, mana is going to be getting better for him as well. It's going to be from 50 to 150 to 50 to 125, and his ability damage is going up 50 at rank 2 and 100 at rank 3.
Yeah. Warwick, and kind of a very lackluster unit, as well as Vayne. Both of those were probably the 2 worst 1-cost units, I think, on most people's tier lists, and now just getting a little bit of love. Warwick was just at that really awkward mana to damage ratio where he was either, one of 2 things was usually happening. He would ult a unit that he had already almost killed, or he would get his alt mana right before or right after he died. Yep. So like he was just at that really awkward spot. So this change, I think, will get him to alt earlier, which is
consistency. It's
really
a good consistency thing for Warwick, right? Because especially at tier 1, you probably should be getting those ults off early game. So I like the change. 50 HP.
Yep.
50 more ability damage should help him get an execute on that ult too early on.
And Jax here is ready for battle, getting a health and attack damage buff. Malzahar is getting a minion attack damage buff here. Nico's total mana is going down, and I'll point this one out specifically, going down to 60 total mana, which means she's in the illustrious club where if you get 3 Seraph's Embrace on her, she will cast infinitely. She'll cast and then cast and then cast and then cast. And a tier 3 Nico with 3 Seraph's Embrace is my patch 10.1 bounty board build. So if you do get that, if you can get a video clip, that would be preferable. But if you can just get a screenshot of that, post it in the channel and tag me, I will send you a little Legends egg. First person that gets it gets a little Legends egg from the client. So let me know. Senna ability damage is getting buffed at the 2 and 3 star level. Skarner bonus attack speed is getting a pretty sizable buff. at level 1 actually, and a little bit on level 2. Level 3 remains the same. Syndra total mana going down from 80 to 65, so not quite in the golden 60 club. And Varus ability damage is just getting a 3-star buff. So now getting the 3-star Varus might actually be something worth it, because you're going up to 800 damage, up from 675.
Tier 3. Look at us. We're already here.
Whew.
The reason why we're doing this, folks, is because we have some general opinions about like the way that this patch is obviously meant to try to take down Blender a little bit.
Yep.
Because I don't know if you've noticed, the only units getting nerfed are the ones that were a part of that in Amumu. So, tier 3. Aatrox health 700 to 800. Aatrox ability damage 250, 500, 1000, a 3, 6, 12. So buffs all around. Good job for the light. Azir spell damage is getting buffed at all levels. Nocturne attack speed getting a huge nerf of 0.05.
You say that, but that
damage.
actually is a bit like his attack speed is the most important thing about him.
It's true. It's true. I think it could be a full 0.1. Going down to 0.6, but we'll see. Nocturne attack damage goes from 60 to 55. Kiana stun duration is getting a little bit of a nerf. Kiana ability damage getting a little bit of a buff at rank 3, and Sivir ability duration straight nerf 7 seconds to 5 seconds.
One thing I want to mention that Mort mentioned in his rundown of the patch was they wanted to nerf Blender because it obviously is a very consistent build. It's a very strong build. But he specifically said does not want Blender to be unplayable. Like, wants Blender to be an option. You get an early spat. You get an early Blade of the Ruined King. Wants Blender to be an option for you to go. Like, we really don't see any Blade Master play outside of that. Wants that to still be there, but doesn't want it to be the consistent monster that it is now. So these are incremental changes. Didn't just, nerf Nocturne into Oblivion. I think that's why we're seeing a mere 5-point attack damage nerf and a 0.05 attack speed nerf. The attack speed is obviously small, but it is large in terms of impact. And then, of course, the Nocturne attack damage is bigger than it seems because that scales with every tier upgrade. So tier 2 is impacted as well as tier 3, which are both used in Blender. So it's a bigger nerf to Nocturne than it seems, but still incremental.
Yeah. All right.
Yes. Let's go.
Tier 4. Go for it. Why don't you do tier 4 and 5?
Okay. Well, I'll take them both. Annie's Tibbers attack damage is actually getting a nerf at tier 1 and a buff at tier 2 and a big buff at tier 3. So I don't know if I've ever seen a tier 3 Annie, but you're getting a 1500 attack damage bear if you get that tier 3 Annie. And Twitch's ability attack damage ratio is getting a buff all around except for the tier 3 Twitch. 9 rats is not getting touched, but 3 and 6 rats, or I guess 3 and not 3 and 6. 1 and 3 rats are getting a small buff.
1 in 3 rats recommend a small buff.
1 in 3 rats recommend going 9 rats. And then at tier 5, Amumu stun duration is going down at the one cost, or the tier 1 staying the same at tier 2 and going way up at tier 3. So if you get that tier 3 Amumu, you're doing leet damage on the base, and then you're getting stunning that team for 5 seconds.
Oh, you know what we should do for the Discord? We should have a thing where people can screenshot tier 3 5's cost units and just like have proof that they exist.
I mean, for all we know, that channel has always been up and it's just never happened. I've seen it once in a non-Reddit setting. I don't even know if I've actually seen it. I've seen it maybe twice in Reddit ever. I saw it once. Someone in one of Dog's games in set 1 had a tier 3. I think it was a tier 3 oh god, I'm forgetting the name of champions.
The only one I think you can even get is Misfortune.
No, it was Imperial vampire guy, Swain. It was It was
Imperial vampire guy.
He's not even a vampire. He reminds me of a vampire, even though he's not a vampire. He
All
drains
right.
health. That's vampire. So yes, Amumu ability damage is getting a nerf at the 1 and 2 star. Starting in total mana is staying the same in terms of getting the first alt. Still has the 75 mana to get that first alt, but his max mana is going up to 150 from 125, which will make the subsequent alt harder to get. Master Yi ability bonus damage is getting a buff at the 1 and 2 tier levels, and Nami ability damage is getting a nerf all around. So a little bit of a buff to Master Yi, a little bit of a tuning down for Amumu and Nami, which I think all it makes sense. Like those are the Yi, arguably I think by most standards the worst 5 cost, and Nami and Amumu by most standards probably the best ones right now. So
yeah. So I mean, I think I don't know if you've noticed, but we talked about it quite a bit during just going over the review. A lot of buffs, right? And I feel like that's not really something that we've seen since they buffed all those rank 3 costs and 2 stars, which I think was like 2 weeks ago, which was over a 3-week patch break, and so it feels like a really long time, even though it was only a couple patches ago. But this patch really seems like they're trying to make some of these a little bit better, right? Rather than trying to bring the power level down of Blender, it's kind of like, let's meet in the middle, right? Let's bring Warwick back. Let's try to bring Lights back, right? Because Aatrox, Jax, Vayne all gets buffed, right? And so let's try to bring some counterplay. Malzahar attack damage got buffed, right? So like, what are we gonna do to, instead of just nerfing this away so other things can come in, what would the game look like if we just met in the middle? And I think that's a different kind of thing we're seeing from them for this particular patch versus the last one.
Absolutely. And I think that's a very good way to tackle the psychology of it, right? So we've seen, I mean, we've both been following games at a competitive level for a long time now, and we see, oh, you nerf one thing, another thing just comes and takes its place, right? One deck in Hearthstone there's always the boogeyman, right? It doesn't matter what it is or why it's there. There's always going to be the top tier thing. And when you nerf something, we see it in Overwatch too. You nerf one comp, one meta takes its place, and it's just as bad, and everyone hates it just as much. But if you slowly tune things, you finally tune things down and finally tune things up, then it's like, okay, we didn't nerf Blender out of existence, but it's just not as good as it was. And I mean, maybe like they might have been able to just not touch the Blender units at all. Maybe just change the items. And it's like, okay, we barely changed Sivir. We barely changed Nocturne. It's just the items that are there counter them. The new units counter them. This just puts them in a worse position, and that makes them worse. And something else is slightly better. And I think the psychology of that almost feels different than like, okay, we nerfed Nocturne does half damage and it's like it's not even worth picking something else. Like Kindred all of a sudden is the new broken thing that everyone's complaining about. Or it's like, now Kindred might be better than Nocturne, maybe. I'm just making this up. I don't know how good Kindred is right now, but Kindred might be better than Nocturne, but it's like Nocturne still might be playable right now because he didn't really change that much. So I don't know. Maybe we do still get the same vacuum, and everyone's going to be complaining about Warden's Rangers or something in this next comp or this next batch. But
yeah, all that matters, right? They say in psychology, if you're like helping a parent, you're a good parent if your kids go to therapy for a different reason than you, right? If we're all complaining about something else, they've done their job.
I don't know how good of advice that is, but sure.
And on that note.
Yes, on that note, that's the patch. That's 10.1. The only other thing we didn't directly mention is we did mention it in the intro, the new Little Legends, which are gonna be fun. I'll probably buy some because I am a degenerate. But that's it, guys. What do you guys think? What are you guys gonna be playing? We want to know. Let us know in the Discord, discord.me/Little Legends podcast. Make sure you check out the Mort video. Last episode 21. Make sure you're following us everywhere. Legends Podcast everywhere. And if you want to find us on a different platform, if you're like, oh man, I don't like watching on YouTube, I want to watch on Spotify, Little Legends Podcast anywhere, or you can just type in Teamfight Tactics on any podcast platform, and we're the first thing that pops up because we've put out a lot of episodes. And we've been doing content, so we got that SEO. Got there. Boop, anything else before we end this show for the week?
Yeah, we got a very special guest next week.
Oh, yes, we do.
So, in another turn of events, it's funny, you would never think Overwatch into TFT, obvious transition, right? But no, we have someone else from that Overwatch world that you guys might be familiar, and gals, might be familiar with from the League of Legends. We've got the wonderful Eric Doa Longquist coming on the show next week, talking all things TFT. So definitely check it out. We're going to get all that set up and give you updates as the week goes on as to how that's going to go. I'm sure we're going to talk about casting because that is what he's known for. But he's been super into auto battlers. He's also into board games too. We'll get to know him a little bit better. So I'm really excited about that. I've worked with Doa for quite a bit a while ago, but I haven't gotten to sit down and talk about his interests in a while. So I'm really excited to catch up and see what he's up to and why TFT. Right? Why cast with Rodan at Fandom Legends? What is it about TFT? What do you want to say to the community? I'm really, really excited about it. How about you, Blev?
Yeah, I love Doa. I've had him on my Overwatch show. I think I was trying to remember before, at least 2 times. So have known Doa for a while. He's always super fun to have on the show, and I can't wait to talk some TFT with him. I was super excited when they announced that he was going to be on with Frodan. I'm like, oh, 2 of my favorite all-time casters casting my new jam. Oh, it's exciting. So yeah, definitely excited to get him on and talk shop with him. So if you guys have questions for Doa, go to Discord.me/Little Legends Podcast. Go to the show suggestions place and throw some questions in there, and we will get them in. But yeah, definitely want to check that one out. But guys, that's gonna be it for this episode. Let us know what you thought. Make sure to leave iTunes reviews, Spotify. I think there's Spotify reviews. I don't know. Reviews anywhere. We do appreciate them a ton. Oh, and actually, before we leave, we did actually get a new review, 5-star review. It says highly entertaining and informative. Boop and Blevins bring excellent information and personality each episode. They go over some great information like patch notes, strategies and builds that are working for them and the community. They also tackle deep philosophical topics like which little legend tastes the best. It is a well-rounded and entertaining podcast that I highly recommend. And they end it with P.S. Rose Bloom Paddlemar with a nice glass of River Spirit.
We're good people. That's a good person.
We're great people. That's a great person. So thank you for the review, guys. Really do appreciate all of your reviews are very much appreciated and really do help the show out. So make sure you do leave those there. But that's gonna be it for this episode. For Boop and Blevins, and we'll see you guys next week with Doa. We talk more TFT. See ya.